Well, we are officially 1 week away from Christmas, but who's counting? And across Lagos and indeed many parts of Nigeria, Detty December is in full swing. Now, the roads are busier, the nights are louder, and the country is in full festive mode. But the festivities don't drown out the stories that matter, because even in the middle of celebrations, some conversations simply cannot wait. Now, in recent times, Nigeria's education sector has been at the center of heated debate following changes to WAEC subject requirements, new restrictions on SS3 admissions, and plans to move WAEC and NECO fully to computer-based testing. Our government says these reforms will restore integrity. Critics also say that the timing could hurt students already in the system. Now, we have a lot to unpack today, so let's get started. But first,
we begin today with a major shakeup in Nigeria's petroleum regulatory space. This is one that has sparked national debate and questions about transparency at the highest levels. On Wednesday, the chief executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, resigned. At the same time, the boss of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Gbenga Komolafe, also stepped down. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has now asked the Senate to expedite confirmation of their replacements, signaling urgency in stabilizing the oil and gas sector. These developments come days after a high-profile public call-out of Ahmed by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote. During a press conference, Dangote, who is the chairman of the Dangote refinery, which is the world's 7th largest refinery and the world's largest single-train refinery, called out the NMDPRA boss. Let's take a look.
But today, as we speak, the I don't know what is the, that is the authority chief executive, Malam Farouk. Malam Farouk has 4 of his children that he educated in Switzerland at the cost of $5 million for their secondary school education alone, not university. And I know that one of them just finished Harvard. So I want to now see what kind of system are we operating that, people are now busy destroying a country, taking money from the government. Because when you look at his income does not match paying this kind of fees. I think even if it's me paying $5 million for 6 years for my 4 children, the taxman has to look at my taxes, how much I've paid. And really, this sort of thing, we're not going to allow it to continue. We'll take it up to the highest authority so that they will look at it. People who have done something wrong must be prosecuted. It must be prosecuted, because there is actually no way where somebody will now come. I mean, today, from where he comes from, Sokoto, people are struggling to pay 100,000 naira for school fees of secondary school. And a lot of children.
Now, after this press conference, Dangote did not stop at this public call-outs. He also took out pages in national newspapers restating his allegations and questions about the lavish lifestyle of Ahmed. Now, this statement was personally signed by him, and those are some of the pictures there on the screen. He has gone further and petitioned the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, accusing Ahmed of abuse of office and corrupt enrichment. The statement alleges that over $5 million was spent on foreign education and upkeep for Ahmed's children in Switzerland and in the United States. It's also important that we note that these figures remain allegations, not court-established facts, and no investigative agency has publicly confirmed the claims as of now. Farouk Ahmed also responded in a public statement denying all allegations, describing them as wild and spurious. He maintained that he preferred to defend himself before the appropriate authorities rather than engage in media battles.
Now, the dispute became so heated that the House of Representatives intervened, summoning both parties and warning that public confrontations between regulators and private investors could destabilize Nigeria's energy sector. Now, barely days after the allegations went public, Ahmed has stepped down. though the State House insists the resignations are administrative decisions, not disciplinary actions. Now, President Tinubu has nominated engineer Saidu Aliyu Muhammad as the new CEO of NMDPRA and Orishemeyiwa Eshan as CEO of NUPRC, pending Senate approval. Both nominees have spent decades across NNPC gas infrastructure, refining, and policy development. What remains unanswered, however, is whether investigations into the allegations will continue, whether the ICPC will act on Dangote's petition, and what this means for regulatory independence in the Nigerian petroleum sector. Nigerians are asking as well, are these resignations about accountability, political pressure, regulatory reform, or both about power tussle in a multi-billion-dollar industry? But let's take some reactions.
Ooh. This is welcome news and exactly what should be expected when an official of such standing is accused of corruption at this scale. A good one for this administration. This could be a welcome development, but I'd like to think differently. Why bring someone out of retirement to be CEO NUPRC? Are there no other qualified professionals currently engaged in the industry? What happened to the career professionals in the field? Valid question. Some things to unpack. Once you're accused of corruption, financial malfeasance, or misappropriation as a public office holder, the path of honor is resignation, not grandstanding. I hope our politicians will learn this, even though this resignation looks like some soft landing. Nigerians are tired of quiet resignations and smooth replacements. Years of mismanagement, regulatory failures, and unanswered questions do not disappear just because new names appear in letters to the Senate. Resignations without explanations feel like cover-up. Will these resignations be followed by investigations and justice, or will this end the usual way with silence? Resignation is not exoneration. The ICPC must proceed with the investigation into the $7 million Swiss education claims. Public service is a trust, and if a salary of 48 million naira cannot justify such lifestyle costs, the source of these funds must be recovered for the Nigerian state. Straight to it. This is a significant and expected transition. The Senate must ensure this leadership change brings real transparency and accountability to these critical agencies. The nation is watching closely. And I think I want to start from this last one, asking the Senate to ensure that the leadership change brings real change. I don't have the confidence, and I'll tell you why. We were just here last week when we saw ambassadors being told to bow and go. I think the last real grilling we saw was with Colonel Christopher Musa, as he was taking up his position as Minister of Defense. So that's like the last real grilling. Everything is typically so very soft. So I'm not of the mind that we're going to see some real grilling, some real questioning from the Senate when it comes to the two newly named or newly nominated individuals. I'm sorry, I don't have that faith.
I actually love what one of the reactions actually said. This should not be exoneration.
Yes.
It needs to be brought to book. Everything needs to be looked into. And I really do not say much about this because I feel this is about two friends, right? Two people. They know each other. They know what happened between them that's making Dangote come out to, accuse him. Even though, yes, it makes sense that he came out to,
Call him out.
To respond to everything, to call him out and everything. But is it because it affected him directly? It affected his business directly. If it was something else that, that had to do with a Nigerian citizen, a normal person, would he come out and call them out? Because there's so much happening. We didn't see him come out to fight against the insecurity.
Is that his responsibility?
No, but he's a Nigerian and it affects him in some way as well. It affects him in some way. He's a Nigerian. Come on. Yeah. So, but because it affected him directly and his business, that is the reason why he came out to call this Ahmed out. Tolu, you know what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree because I don't understand. Is it Dangote? I don't know. What do you think? I want to say something, but let me hold myself.
I like the way.
Really?
You know, I think the most important thing is, you know, situations like this come out all the time.
Yeah.
And then it just disappears.
Dies.
And, you know, he's right. What are the salaries? Your lifestyle. It's the same way I have to use, you know, all the internet fraudsters. They catch them by their lifestyle as to, okay, your lifestyle is this. What do you do for a living? Now, you calling out, staying in Switzerland is expensive. Schooling in Switzerland is expensive. And, you know, there are so many angles to this. Why are you calling him out now? Is it because of your business? Is it because of Nigeria? Will Nigerian people even get to see the end of this conversation? Like somebody mentioned, soft landing. Is it soft landing? Okay, after this, 2026, we move on to greater things. What happens after that?
What greater things?
We don't know.
No, because I really have to
The
ask.
children, they're done with school now. School fees are gone.
Let's not forget that this goes back a little further than now. If people will remember, it was in 2024 when we had the announcement of when the Dangote refinery was launching, where Farouk Ahmed publicly questioned the quality and output of locally refined petroleum products, and those comments were believed to be widely aimed or a swipe at the Dangote refinery. And let's not forget George Komolafe and Farouk Ahmed were appointed in 2021 under the Petroleum Industry Act. So this is also the first simultaneous exit of both regulatory heads since the PIA was enacted. But this is a long-standing, 2024 is not so long, but it's a long-standing. And I also suspect, you know, when you've been doing something to other people,
just
when you've
waiting.
been chipping away at other people, small people, you sometimes fail to recognize when you've come up against, would I say a Goliath now or a David? When you've come up against a David, you become so used to being able to use your regulatory influence and power, and then you don't realize that sometimes this one, Keisha, you're right. It's not soft meat. It's not coming out this morning. It's not soft meat. You think that because you've done it, again, allegedly, you've done it to so many people, and people have failed and they've fallen and they've whatever, you can do it to everyone.
Let me steal your allegedly, because allegations are there that, you know, it's probably because, that's why I said allegedly, right? Please. Dangote didn't give him some amount of money for some things, and this is why he came after him. But I'm saying it again, and Tolu would understand with me. Honestly, if these people know themselves, right? They're kind of like in the same circle.
In the same industry.
If they continue to call themselves out, Nigeria will be a better place. Because there's so many people that are actually complicit in this. A lot of people, a lot of elites, a lot of leaders that we have that, you know, the amounts they spend on themselves and their families is not commensurate to the salaries that they're earning.
Absolutely.
So if those people are called out, Nigeria would be a better place, and corruption will reduce, honestly. But because this affects him personally, it is an attack on the integrity of his company, his organization. This is the reason why we're seeing Dangote unleashing his
that's what we
50
need to
cent.
start hoping for, that people start taking these things personal. And so they feel like I have to defend this because it is impacting me personally. Because unfortunately, as humans, that's who we are. If we don't feel a personal impact to something, we may stand and look. Sit down, look, and mind our business. Drop cup and mind business. This thing, one thing I'll pray is, the administration is saying that, oh no, it's not an admission of guilt, it's not Kineka. It looks like a silent admission of guilt. The resignations were very quick. He's not up for resignation. He's not up for retirement. He's not up for a change of Kineka, whatever it is. Very, very swift. Do not play on our intelligence and tell us that it's not tied to it. Come out and let us know, because that statement should have also gone further to say we will see the investigations to the end.
Which investigation? This is okay. So we're going to compensate you, step down, and then we do not investigate further. This is what we see.
Well, I think Nigerians should take note from this.
Absolutely.
If he's allegedly calling him out for something because it affects him directly, insecurity is affecting us directly.
Exactly.
Your salary is affecting you directly. Your food, everything, your surrounding, livelihood. Don't be thinking, oh, if I didn't get from Tolu, I'll get from Dasha. So, okay, I don't like problem. Fight. Fight for what you want.
Yeah.
Open your mouth, because if not, nothing will really happen.
Tolu asked the question earlier. She said, how does insecurity affect?
I didn't say. I said it's not his responsibility.
Okay, so now, who is he selling his fuel to? Nigerians. If Nigerians do not have the means, or they're killed off or kidnapped and wiped off, you know, who would buy his fuel?
Is that question to me?
It's just general.
Take this break right now.
Let's go on a short break because this conversation will not finish. When we return, Dr. Joy is the president of the ISA School of Education, joins us to look at recent reforms in Nigeria's education sector, what they mean, what they affect, and the questions they raise for students, parents, and policymakers. Talk soon.
I'm shooketh. I tell you guys all the times, the things we talk about behind the scene, Queen has given me shock, but I'm going to manage. I'm going to comport like the mature adults that I am. Nigerians. Omashi. But let's go ahead. Education remains one of the most powerful tools for shaping a nation's future. And in Nigeria, few institutions carry as much weight in that journey as WAEC and NECO. For decades, these examinations have determined not just academic progress, but opportunity, access, and possibility for millions of young people. But today, Nigeria's education system and sector is at a critical crossroads. In recent months, we have seen a wave of major reforms, from proposed changes to WAEC subject requirements to a federal ban on admission and transfer into SS3, and now a full transition of WAEC and NECO examinations to computer-based testing by 2026. That's, the one that's coming in a few days. Now, while the government says these policies are aimed at restoring integrity, reducing examination malpractice, and modernizing our system, lawmakers, educators, and parents are asking questions about timing, readiness, and the impact on students already preparing for these exams. Joining us now is Dr. Joy Isa, one of our faves, president of the ISA School of Education. Now, with decades of experience in curriculum design, teacher training, and educational leadership, she brings expert insight into how policies like this shape classrooms and learners across the country. Dr. Joy, it's always a pleasure. Dr. Isa, it's always a pleasure.
It's fine.
She ends up catching the tail end of some conversations as well. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
It's fun to be here.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Isa, Nigeria is currently witnessing, several major education reforms and changes happening almost at the same time. What do these recent policy moves say about, the direction that our education system is trying to take?
I mean, great to be here as always. I love the conversations,
It's a pleasure.
especially about education. And I think our current minister is really driving us in the right direction. We have, I think I said before, last of all the people who have come up in leadership in the Ministry of Education is the medical doctor who has come up and has been driving some very practical reforms that can be implemented in very simple ways, and I really, really, really appreciate his leadership. That said, timelines are important. So it's one thing to change the curriculum. Yes, we have been long overdue for a change in the curriculum, but timeline for implementation. You can't say change the curriculum now and then change WAEC exam expectations for December happening in a few days. That's ridiculous. It's supposed to be changes in GS1 and SS1. Allow time for the teachers to understand the new reformation, publishers to publish the books. Then by SS3, the examinations can test the knowledge and skills that children have been exposed to over time. So that's the challenge. The timeline is just too short for the reforms to be effective. I don't know if it's because it's tied to politics, where in another few years the minister might be changed. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate that, when the elephants fight, the grass suffer.
And the grass is the students here.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's break it down a little bit, because the Senate itself has expressed concern over WAEC's new subject requirements for students already in SS3. Now, at the center of the controversy are fresh WAEC rules for candidates sitting for the 2025-2026 Senior Secondary Certificate Examination, which drastically altered subject requirements for students in Senior Secondary School 3. Now, WAEC has decided to implement a new curriculum immediately, despite earlier indications that, as Dr. Isa said, changes were meant to take effect in about 2 years. So what you have is that the guidelines were originally designed for students now in SS1 who would sit for the SSCE in the 2027-2028 academic session, even that's close, not those already preparing for the 2025-2026 May-June exams. With affected subjects gone, students across science, humanities, and business tracks are left with a maximum of 6 subjects, far below WAEC's own requirement of a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 9 subjects. So just clarify the changes. Are these changes the correct ones that we're seeing? And what seems to be Dr. Isa, what's going on? No, because when you look at it, people have been preparing for these exams, not just this year into the exams, but even for a few years, because that's what was in place. And you're literally pulling the rug out from under them.
You said it. That's exactly what's happening. So we will end up with a big group of frustrated SS3 students who are, well, they'll be frustrated, but the truth is, because they have a reduced number of subjects to write in their assessments, they probably will do better in the exams. The challenge will be with those subjects where the curriculum has changed. So with the general subjects like maths, English, a couple of the sciences, they'll be fine. But where someone was doing IT, and now IT includes robotics and AI and things like that, they've never done that. They most likely have not even used a computer. Then we're setting them up to fail. So in terms of the reduced number of subjects, again, I say, how many subjects do you need to go into a university? 5. You need 5 credits. So at the end of the day, our children won't necessarily suffer because of the reduced number of subjects. It's the content.
Of what they're studying.
Yes, because the content has now changed. So WAEC is now saying, I'm assessing you on AI and programming and robotics.
When was I taught on AI, robotics, and
programming? Don't know about AI and programming and robotics. How am I supposed to know that? So we're saying we're curbing examination malpractices. However, we're setting up our children to
fail.
Right. It is unfortunate, but yeah, it's strange, or should I say it's interesting, because there's good. The intentions are great and the outcomes will be great. It's the timing.
Right.
Reduced number of subjects, absolutely worth it. Because imagine if I have any learning delays or disabilities, no matter what you call them, instead of doing 9 subjects or 8, I now have the opportunity to offer 6. More space in my brain to retain information, to process information, much better for me. I am more likely to succeed. However, if I don't have enough time to learn the material, all I have time to do is cram. And if I have any slight delay, that's the end. I will just blank out. Oh, then you ask me to take the exam using a laptop that I've never used before. So it's so, honestly, for us in the sector, we're just wondering what is happening. Guys, come on, please, please. We know that the intentions are good.
Yeah.
But there's a right way to do something. There's a right time to do something. And, they're making it difficult for us. I think that parents as stakeholders need to complain a little bit more, to partner with the school leaders to say, WAEC, please, can we not do this to our young people?
Right.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned how the children, they're telling them you're going to use computer to write your exams, and they're wondering, and okay, how do we learn robotics, and how do we know all AI, even though our teachers don't know? But then, they remove subjects like computer science and civic education, which of course people are wondering what's going on. If you remove computer science, what are they going to learn? How are we going to reconcile this with Nigeria's push to, digital illiteracy and, civic responsibilities?
So civic education has been replaced with if I check the name correctly, it's a humanities subject, right? So it's technically, if you look at the content, it's not fully replaced. It's still there. It's just the titles that are different. But again, when you're assessing me in exams, so yes, world revolutions and government is the replacement, if you will.
World revolutions
and government for civic education, and then citizenship and heritage studies. So it is there. It's just that the framing of it is the slight challenge.
Have you seen the content of the curriculum for these courses?
Unfortunately, not yet.
Because I took world studies when I was in high school, and I know what world studies is, and it feels like there's a departure away from what Nigerians have asked for, which is about our own governments, our own constitution, our own responsibilities. And it's not to say it's not there, but when you sort of enlarge the curriculum and expand it in some way, certain things get pushed down to the bottom. But for you not to have seen the curriculum for...
So again, I have to dive deeper into this. The curriculum has been updated, NERDC, there are outlines available.
Yes.
But for people like us, where's the textbook?
The teaching material,
Yes.
the syllabus.
That's what we need. So there are outlines available, to be honest. They are available. There's a website, syllabize or syllabus.ng, where you can access broken down schemes and things.
Okay.
That hasn't been updated yet because it takes weeks to update curriculum. You can't just announce, remember the reform was announced in September.
Yeah.
So we've not had time to even break it down and say, okay, like you just said, what is the end-to-end for world studies for JS1, for JS2, for JS3? We have to scaffold the learning. What are the final outcomes and how are we going to scaffold that learning to that process? Okay, what assessments are we going to use to check that they've understood what we said we've taught them for the last 3 years? All of that, we need time to develop all of that. And that's the problem. There isn't enough time to implement the reforms. Reforms are great, but there just isn't enough time.
Let's take a break on the time note. There's a lot of conversation to be had because there have been a lot of suggested reforms in the past few weeks and months in Nigeria's education sector. But also let's look at the academic and social and psychological consequences for the students. We'll take it up when we come back. A lot of questions on the table today regarding some of the education reforms put forth by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. But one of the things I think we need to also consider is the academic, is the psychological impact for these students, particularly the ones who are caught up in the 2025-2026 exams, who are seeing new subjects they've never had to study or have to have been taught, and then subjects that they've poured themselves, invested time in, being removed. What do you think the academic consequences of this could be, and also the psychological consequences for students as well?
I want to start with the psychological consequences because that's something we generally
gloss over.
Yes, in this country. You have, in developed countries, we have data on the number of students who actually attempt suicide successfully because of exam pressure. The most prominent example is in the Asian countries, China specifically, where, in fact, I think it's Japan or Korea recently, the minister had to step down because the intensity of the English exam was crazy. It was too hard. And they didn't catch it on time. So even their leadership had to resign, say, okay, we're sorry, we apologize, we're going to do something about this. Exam fever is a real thing.
Yeah.
People think it's a real thing. Your chest is tight, you're panicking, and then what you've invested hours studying, you just go blank. Undermining that and thinking, the children are just having exam fever, they'll be all right, is a serious disservice to our children. We have, about 49% of the children being under age 17. 50% of the Nigerian population being under age 18. Okay. Imagine half your population, or imagine, let's say, 10% of that, which is what? My maths has gone now. 5 million children.
Don't ask us either.
It's about 5 million children, or 4.9 million children stressed because they have to, take some big stake exams and they're under pressure. Imagine that if you think of the sheer numbers, then you wonder what is happening to guidance and counseling in our schools. Many of the schools do not have counselors available, and where the counselors are available, they're focused on career counseling and not well-being. I know one of the reforms the minister has introduced is they spent a lot of money on building health centers recently. And the idea is, yes, when you need help, go to the nearest health center, speak to someone, hopefully you're not on antidepressants, but let's go back to the real issue.
What is the cause of it?
If I don't pass my exams, my family will label me a failure. Then where do I go from there?
So many families,
Yes.
making sure that these children have the money to register for these exams, get to these exams.
They're not free.
You don't have opportunity. Many of them, if you fail once, you may not be able to take it again.
So that pressure is there. Then you now add a new subject that I have not studied for. Of course, we're setting up our children to fail. So I commend the Senate for actually calling out the minister and the head of WAEC on this occasion to say, no, let's protect our children, and hopefully, the bill goes through and there's a reversal of the change. I really hope that happens so that our children have better chance of succeeding in their assessments and their examinations. That's what I'm hoping for, really.
Okay, let's pick up from there.
Wow. So several things have cropped in recent weeks and months involving Nigeria's education sector. And this week, the Ministry of Education announced that it has now banned admission and transfer into SS3 from the 2026-2027 session. Dr. Joy Issa is with us as we look at the recent development in education in Nigeria. And Dr. Issa, what was the situation around, transfers into SS3 before now, and where was the problem? I know I did transfer. But, yeah.
Oh, you did?
You did? At SS3, you're one of the culprits.
I did, and I had a reason.
What was your...
So before I got into SS3, we had a particular teacher, Dr. Tokumba. Mr. Tokumba, rather, I wish I can find that teacher. So he kind of found the student who had issues, especially in math. I was terrible. So during lunch break, he would pick us up, we'll go to the office, and then, it was
Support.
and it was amazing. I came back, SS3. It wasn't They gave me one youth copper failure. I was blank, like I did not know Jack. So they just had to transfer me, thanks to my dad, transfer me to another school. Yeah.
So
okay, we'll talk about exemptions
that
like
was
that.
the parents. See what I said about parents being involved and partnering, with school reform? Usually, private schools specifically do not allow transfers in final year of primary and final year of secondary. Not necessarily for malpractice reasons, but really because they don't want their results to be bad. They want to maintain our children got A stars and 11 A's and 8 A's and 9 A's. Exactly. And so they don't want transfers because they think, maybe you had a problem, that's why you had to transfer. Transfers, in my opinion, your case is an exemption to the rule, but really, ideally, transfers, I agree with that reform.
Should
Let's keep the children so that the schools take direct responsibility for the outcome of the children. So that school, for example, the parents should have challenged the school to say, you can't just give us a youth copper that doesn't know how to engage children who have additional needs, who need the extra support. It's easy to teach the smart kids. They don't need you. They just need you to stand in the room and facilitate the conversation. But where you need to help me understand why 3 raised to the power 3 is whatever it is.
X and Y.
Look, X, Y squared equals for X. Stop it. I've never used it in my life.
And it's like, whoa. That's where teaching happens. To take me from not knowing something to now knowing something and being able to apply it independently. So, yes, the ban is useful, it's very important. And as with every rule, we should allow for exemptions.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about.
To support.
But how do you get data to support? So let's talk about maybe if a family has to move, they need to relocate, there's a safety issue, there's an economic situation. How do we look at this that is humane for the maybe very small percentage that will have a genuine reason to relocate, to change classes? And let me also add, do you think this may also help with curbing exam malpractice as well?
Oh, absolutely. When the schools have to take direct responsibility for their results, yes, they will pay attention to the children. And then the teachers, yes, I will throw us under the bus this time and say sometimes because we're not well paid, we focus on extra lessons and the support outside because you get extra money from that. And so you focus your energy on tutoring the children on the side as opposed to the children in the room in your daily lesson. So when we're held accountable for that, then yes, you know that you must deliver. Another thing is when exam results when there's call it a bonus situation, call it something, when there's some incentives, for the number of children who succeed in your subjects, you will sit up. So yes, it will curb exam malpractice to a certain extent. It will get the teachers to be more accountable and the school leaders to be more accountable for results. But
what about the exemptions?
As always, exemptions should be based on data. In this case, for example, where the parent is saying, look, the school does not have adequate resources. I'm taking my child to another school. The new school should ask for a letter. Yes.
Okay. Like an academic record. Yes.
There needs to be a reference.
Academic record. Transfer your academic records.
Why are you
references.
Moving?
Yes.
Yes. And the new school should be able to verify from the old school.
But does the ministry give schools the ability to do that?
Well,
to be able to sort of decide on a case-by-case, special case-by-case exemption?
Yes, school leaders have the autonomy. School administrators have certain autonomies, yes, especially in the private sector.
So this ban is not full-on?
No, it is full-on.
Okay.
When the ministry has said something, it is a ban, it is a ban.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it. So exemptions now, everyone will tell you have to go to Abuja. Yes. And so that now puts a stop to it.
That will put a stop to a lot of it.
Who's going to go to Abuja to try and apply? Because if you do go, and I'm sure if you appeal, you will get, your appeal answered with evidence. But the appeal time, the period, the window, you might as well go and pay for extra lesson and get your child sorted. Because, like you've said, it's a high-stakes exam.
Very.
Once a year. Wow. And it's so high stake. And because that is still the only gateway to get into higher education so far, we all have to put our heads down and support the children to succeed as much as possible.
Well, Dr. Issa, we shall continue this conversation after the break. Well, thank you for staying with us. So we're still looking at recent developments in the education sector. And now let's move to yet another recent announcement. Now, the government plans to move WAEC and NECO fully to computer-based testing by 2026. Let's hear from the Minister of Education.
One of the things we're doing, we've told you CBT, which we've piloted and will go live with next WAEC 2026 WAEC and NECO. And what we've just announced over the weekend, transfers of students at SS3, in SS3 to SS3 classes, to join SS3. We're banning it in totally outright ban of transfer of SS3 students. But we're not banning transfer into SS1, into SS2, because we all know this. The special centers, miracle centers that have all sprung up around the nation, they attract parents and students. They come to our centers, transfer to our centers, and they know what they actually know. They are the ones that racketeer. They're so good in racketeering. This question racketeering, and also bring people to do the exams for students. Also bring people to answer the questions for those students. They make a lot of money from this. We want people to make a lot of money, but legitimately.
I'm sure there's something Tolu wanted to ask. So
Well, let's finish the subject. We'll say it because we're talking about it now. But I must give Dr. Issa to say it on record. But anyway, Queen, what's your question? What's your question?
Sorry, guys. Professor, in your assessment, how ready is Nigeria for this transition? I know we've been talking, and you've mentioned that time is is the issue. But do you think that we'll be ready if we settle ourselves? Do you think we are going to be ready, or our children will just fail?
Well, again, I have to cite the disparity between urban areas and suburban areas and rural communities. That is the fundamental issue. Urban centers will be fine because the children, most of them have access to computers or to smartphones that are computers anyway, and will be able to answer the questions, have the exposure, they'll be fine. But where we are saying we want equitable access across the nation, that is where the problem is. Access is not equitable. It is not. We see the number of schools that have been closed down in northern Nigeria because of insurgency. What is going to happen to those children? There's no miracle center that's going to open up to get them to successfully pass the exams in 6-7 months. That's just it. So having said that, if we don't start, we'll never start. So we have to transition. We have to transition and just, jump into the deep end and support the other areas to catch up.
But Dr. Issa, if we never start, we won't start. I understood. But the students we start with, because the Minister of Education talked about they have piloted it and it was successful. Where did you pilot it? Did you pilot it deeply? Let's not even say you have to go to the core north. Did you pilot it deeply enough in areas of the south-south, areas of the southeast? Did you go deep enough to those areas and pilot it?
I have to disagree with the minister on this one. That a one time is not enough for a pilot.
So they did one time.
Pilot.
Oh,
yeah, it was just this year.
It has to be
CBT
phased.
was introduced across board for everyone. And we saw the videos. We saw children, not being able to ride. People were in centers from morning to like midnight.
Evening.
They had not eaten. We saw what was going on. We saw where some papers results were withheld. Some centers had to retake their exams. Some were privately sponsored, by the way. I think it's Educare, Nigeria, who even sponsored some exam centers. So we see all of that. That is showing us that we're not quite there yet.
So that's where
we need the
foundation. So that's why I have a problem with we have to start so that we start. Because the students who are caught in the we have to start, they're the ones who will suffer it.
They will. That's the truth. They will. There is going to be a learning loss. There is going to be a learning loss with those children because, and I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking, these are the children that may end up having to retake WAEC and will be labeled failures because they failed WAEC. They didn't fail because of a lack of knowledge and skill. They failed because access was inequitable. They didn't have the same access, and so there's no way they were going to pass the exams. I mean, some children have more of an advantage than others. Fraudulent means, of course, but...
Excuse me. Don't gloss over it. You cannot tell me something.
I paused
you were waiting for me, right? You cannot gloss over it. Dr. Issa, these fraudulent means, what is going on? Because if we're going to CBT, and we are finding ourselves even increasing the digital divide in Nigeria based off of we want to do reforms and we want to curb exam malpractice. But it's like those who are involved in it, they're sharper than the rest of us.
I'm sorry to say, I know of, let's call them digital centers, WhatsApp groups. Only 1,000 naira to join, and you get the expo, every paper, first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning of the paper or the day.
It's shocking.
So all you have to do is just cram and choose.
And you try and memorize 1,000 naira to join the WhatsApp group.
Yes. So that means you have thousands of people.
Imagine it is the pressure because this exam
That's
is
my
such
point.
a critical exam. If you don't take it, if you don't pass it,
There's
you
no
don't
other
move
way.
forward. So
That's
there's no
the problem.
other way. So the pressure on and imagine 1,000 naira across the country.
And you know, the thing is, even the students do not believe that they can write the exam
And
once
pass.
and pass.
When your literacy level is low, when you cannot read a passage, you can't read the history textbook, understand it, and answer a question, what are you going to do? So the children know that they are aware of their levels of incompetence, if I may say it that way. They understand their limitations. They understand because they go online, they read things online, and they understand that they can't process the information. They can't finish it on time. You have 2 hours to answer an exam paper, and you scroll through because there are sample papers available online everywhere. And every school we use them for mock
exams
and things. So they know, they look at it and it's like, my God, I'm going to fail. Wow, okay. My friend down the road said there's this WhatsApp group. God will forgive me after the exam, but that's the only way. Because last year, Chinyere, Yemisi, Dauda, who signed up, they passed and their family is just celebrating them. That's the problem.
So I need to go back to something because as you mentioned literacy level, and I remembered it from a few while back, and we've talked about it, but even the Minister of Education recently talked about literacy levels and talked about the fact that so many Nigerian children, millions of Nigerian children cannot read age-appropriate text at age 10.
Correct.
So even all this WAEC and NECO we're talking about, the foundation is already faulty, Dr. Issa.
Correct. Right. That is the
problem. So
problem.
what are we doing? Because you're forcing CBT on students that may not be prepared for it. You're encouraging and widening the digital divide. You're moving forward with adjustments to WAEC requirements, even though that they flout curriculum, that flout your own things. But we're forgetting that many of them are coming to this test not being able to read.
Fundamental issue. We have to go back to basic education. There's no point testing me at WAEC level when you already know I cannot function at end of primary 6. I can't. I failed that literacy test. So how am I supposed to succeed?
So who's passing them?
So you see the systemic...
The pipeline.
Yes.
To failure.
Systemic compromise. So they're going to cheat because they cannot pass the exams. This is why we have the proliferation of private schools. And in recent research, I remember, I think the minister was saying that the Ministry of Education did some surveys and found out that about 70% of Nigerian children are being educated in private schools, no more in public schools.
70%.
70%.
But not all private schools are equal.
Oh, of course. There's such a big, disparity, but they're still private schools. So who is the Ministry of the Department of Quality Assurance that should be regulating these primary schools is not necessarily as effective as it should be, even though it does exist. Who's checking to make sure Joy, who graduates from primary 6, can read at this level? And if she can't, what's the intervention? Who is teaching the teachers how to teach Joy, age 13, to read? Oh. Because you've assumed that I've come to your class in JS2, JS3, being able to read. So you're ready to teach me at that level. But now I come to you and I can't read. You don't know how to teach children how to read. You're a secondary school teacher.
Because that should have been done at the foundational level.
So teacher training, which is where I always like to land on, needs to evolve. We need to include these basic skills. How do you teach older children to read? How do you teach them to write? So it's both digital literacy, general literacy, and numeracy. So teach them to be literate, numerate, and digitally competent. Go in teacher training. Can our teachers go there? And again, I hate to throw teachers under the bus, but remember when our dear governor at that time in a certain state did an exam,
and how many people
a lot of the teachers failed, and he fired them and got into trouble, and we had to reinstate them.
Our dear governor.
Last thing I'll say, requirements for entry into NCEs, 100 marks in JAM.
100.
You get 100,
so we are
admitted
getting
into
what they are open to.
Exactly.
And these are the people that are supposed to teach. She's so shocked. And these are the people that are supposed to teach our children. Yes, you only need 100 to get into NCE and College of Agric, I think. No, Agric and Nursing are higher, 140.
Wow.
But education is 100.
But education, the people who are meant to teach.
100.
And then when these people get...
Thank you so much, Dr. Issa. In fact, I actually felt like you were, a part of the Jasiri women.
She is.
I am.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have
Thank you for having me.
around.
It's an honor.
Yes. So we hope that this conversation brought some clarity and insight into these recent education policies and what these changes mean for students, parents, and educators alike. Bye for now. Tomorrow is hot topics. Hot topics ready.